discussion for this month.
He likes his jingle.
Well, why do you think I like the jingle? You do it to wind me up, you know you.
To think this jingle came out of nowhere and Craig just had to adopt it and love it and nurture it.
I don't have to love it. Anyway,
bring it up.
Let's should we move on to the discussion.
Yeah.
So, topic which I think is going to become quite a bit hotter as the years go on at the moment. Electric cars and the electric car sort of infrastructure and the rules and everything that's going to be coming in.
Yeah.
So, yes, what do we think, chaps? I mean, the reason I noticed this is, or mentioned this, because I've noticed a lot of electric car spaces popping up here, there and everywhere. So,
yeah, I guess so.
That was one of the things that was holding electric cars back.
Yeah.
Now, there's been a news article literally this week, and we've got it in on the Overdrive website as well, which basically a couple of the companies who run charging stations and have their own cards and everything else, they're now grouped together so that you can now use your card across more particular charging stations. Because it's basically, at the minute, it can be a case of, you've got to use one card for this one card for that one. Sometimes you've got to have an adapter for the plug because it doesn't quite fit. And it's a bit of a mess. It's almost the equivalent of if you went to one supermarket, you could only pay with one bank card.
Yeah.
You went to another supermarket, you had to pay with another bank card.
That's very off-putting, isn't it?
It is a bit like that, and it's taken far too long for a bit of joined thinking.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think what I'd like to see happen is, now you go to a petrol station, you fill your car up with fuel, you're there 5 minutes or so, aren't you, and then you're on your way again.
Yeah.
How cool would it be to go and fill your electric car up, charge it up in 5 minutes and be on your way like you can now?
It would, but...
Two problems.
We're a long way off that, I guess.
Well, you see, they figured out charging ultra fast about 15 years ago. The problem being, though, is you have a permeable barrier between your positive and your negative. You've got your electrolytes and everything else, and the electrons flow between this. You increase the holes, the electrons flow faster. The problem is it discharges faster. And when you do that, when you're using your battery, when you're charging your battery, it generates heat. So have you ever had your battery, have your phone on, and you know the CPU's up somewhere and it gets warm, but the rest of the phone gets warm as well. You can touch the screen and there's like a warm patch. It's like that. Well, that's your battery heating up when it's charging. And it can heat up when it's in use. Now you push enough current through, you could, if there's a slight fault on one of those cells, it could explode.
Yeah. And this is the thing, isn't it? And also, fast charging, it wears out batteries a lot faster.
It does, yeah.
You're going to weaken the battery's life, aren't you, really? Too much. I mean, batteries as a whole do weaken over time, but really you're just forcing that procedure.
You're just speeding that procedure up.
Yeah, so...
Yes, it's not ideal. I mean,
fast charging facilities are good, but they're not intended to be used every single time.
No, this is when you buy an electric car and say, you can charge it up in half an hour, but don't do it very often because it's going to wear your battery out.
Now, some cars can do this more frequently than others. The BMW i3, for example, can do fast charge quite a few times, but there is a limit to how many you can do within a particular given period.
Yeah.
And Nissan Leaf's a really good example because they tout that as being able to fast charge.
Yeah.
You can do it your overnight charge and get it all charged up, but then you can do it once. And then the next time you have to charge up, you're on a slow charge.
Yeah.
Because otherwise the batteries start to diminish.
Yeah, I mean, it's the thing. I mean, another thing as well is I think this is a bit of confusion over this, but the UK government said, was it 2040, Malcolm, that you can buy a conventional fuel car or something like that?
Now, this is where people are getting confused. They're saying that you won't be able to buy any petrol or diesel after 2040, and that's not the case. If the petrol or diesel car is part of a hybrid drivetrain, it's fine. But if it's not, you can't sell it. So right the way up to the very last minute, you could sell a regular petrol or diesel.
But the thing is, coming up to that deadline, they're not going to sell every petrol and diesel vehicle before that.
Well,
so what they're going to do with what they've still got left?
Yeah, because bound to be on left, aren't they?
Yeah.
No, we're not the only ones who've announced that sort of thing, because there's America as well, Europe, they've all the big places have announced this sort of thing. So that's why there's been that push to get electrics and hybrids back in. And, you know, some of these things have been around, you know, the idea of an electric car was around in the early 90s.
But you see, what about like these small, like, used dealerships that's got 30-some plus cars, diesel, whatever, petrol and all that, that don't sell, and then they reach this deadline and they've still got...
Or is it just apply to new cars now?
So would they still be able to sell them vehicles after the deadline?
They won't be able to sell new ones.
No, but
they'll sell second-hand.
so basically anyone that's got an old stock or anything, even if it's only 12 months old or even 6 months old, still classed as a used car.
By then...
Should be able to still be allowed to ship them after the deadline until everything's gone.
But we're talking 20 years ahead. Look at the shift in the last 20 years. I mean, 20 years ago, you couldn't really buy many electric vehicles or hybrids.
No.
I think the Prius was around.
Yeah.
And that was pretty much it.
It was.
That
was it, really.
The thing as well to think about is if everything suddenly went electric overnight, what's going to happen to the oil companies? They're not going to be particularly happy that suddenly they're going to go out of business, aren't they?
The thing is, though, take Shell, for example. Shell bought First Utility, so they're in the electric game. Doesn't matter to them.
There's some that'll suffer though,
and don't forget, every single one of them has got some sort of input into electric vehicles and hybrid vehicles and things like that now. They saw the tide changing. But here's the biggest problem. If we all went electric now, especially in this country, there's only a few countries around who have got their entire electric infrastructure supplied solely by green energy, by renewables. All you're doing is taking the emissions and shoving them into another bucket. It won't bring CO2 down one iota.
I imagine you're going to have petrol stations where there's half electric pumps and half conventional pumps, because there's still going to be hybrids.
There's still going to be petrol. I really believe for a long time you really should be having your petrol diesel as normal and then your hybrids and all that, until it just slowly phases out.
Well, the other thing is as well, you've got a maximum capacity of battery. A good example is Tesla's best mileage. They advertise their best one at around about 300 to 400 miles range.
Yeah.
But in real world tests, it's more like 300 tops. And you've got a maximum capacity. You've got styles of driving, and those all affect battery availability and battery use. Anybody can get hundreds of miles out of a lab. It's when you stick it into people's homes and put it out there, that's when you find out the real performance. You cannot go by advertised figures.
I've got to say, I'm not really a massive fan of electric cars at the moment and hybrids and that.
I am, but I'm a fan of the technology, but I'm not a fan of how it's implemented at the moment. There needs to be something better than lithium ion, because it's just, in the event of an incident, it's too dangerous.
What about that car that once tested before? Was it James May that drove it, the Fiscal Karma?
Oh, yeah.
That even had solar panels on its roof.
Yeah.
It did lots of different things of charging to get its energy.
Another one that's been announced recently is a car which has it, I can't remember who made it now, it might be a Hyundai again, which has the solar panels on the roof.
Yeah.
Well, that did that James May were driving. It used to shut down certain things, so it was only using certain power for certain things. The solar panels were mainly to charge for things like dashboard display light, things like that. Yeah, simple things that won't, let's say, use a lot of power. So it was using lots of different sources. And I thought that was a good idea.
It is.
It is. I mean, do you remember, chaps, back in the late 90s, early 2000s? You used to be able to buy. I think it was high-end Audis, like S6s at the time, that type of thing, and A8s, and they used to have a solar sunroof.
Yeah.
So it looked like a conventional sunroof. But built into the glass, it had little solar panels.
The elements, yes, to charge.
Basically, that was to charge up the air conditioning system and things like that.
That's still completely into petrol and diesel cars now. But
they stopped doing it, I think, down to cost, really, of actually producing that technology.
Well, this is the thing. I mean, I've got solar panels on my roof. And at one time, for someone to have solar panels, it was a massively expensive thing. You wouldn't see people with them on, but now, it's such an easy thing to do.
But this is another problem though, because they keep touting solar panels as a solution, which it is. But the problem is solar panels are massively polluting to actually produce.
To me, this is the thing. A lot of things. It's like that usual thing about the food stuff that's good for you is usually tasteless and boring. And it's similar to things like this. The things that are really going to be good for the environment, in a way to make, are usually bad for the environment. And that's a bit of a downer, isn't it?
It's a bit like the Tesla batteries, isn't it? Things like that.
It's all batteries.
To make them,
The actual, you've got the actual open cast mining for the lithium, because it's a crustal element, and you can farm it out of water as well. You can get lithium out of water. The problem being when you do that is it's incredibly polluting to do the filtering and getting it out.
This is the thing. We all bang on about, when you used to burn coal and things like that, and how bad it was to the atmosphere, but getting stuff with as batteries, like you say, it's just as bad.
Yeah.
We seem to be shooting ourselves in the foot to try and go greener, aren't we? And it's not so working.
Yes, I'm afraid there's positives and negatives, pardon the pun.
You got it in.
To electric and going that way anyway. Yes, obviously the emissions there isn't any emissions. That's the positive. But actually, the negative is actually producing in the first place, and you're still producing greenhouse gases.
But then again, when it comes to zero emissions, the main thing for zero emissions of the car would be hydrogen.
Yes.
And the thing with that is it would actually be beneficial to everyone if we produce hydrogen.
Yeah.
Except, right at the minute, getting the hydrogen to a state it can be used is incredibly expensive and incredibly polluting. It would actually cause more damage than it fixes. Which is actually very similar to the genuine production of a lightweight.
But it's such a shame, because I showed on a certain programme the Honda Clarity, which again James May were driving, and basically nothing but water just comes out the exhaust. The end product is brilliant, but as Malcolm says, getting to that stage is so polluting to do it.
Which is probably why we've not really seen that.
But then, the London Met Police have hydrogen cars available, and the advantage being for them is cost over time, because there's no wearing out of batteries, there's no issues around that. It's simpler to maintain because it's a well understood engineering technology, as in terms of you've still got a combustion engine. And it works.
And I think for them the most important thing probably is actually what comes out of the exhaust in central London.
But I will say, me being
and it's got range.
A car fanatic, I like to see a car with an engine, because it's hard.
Yeah.
I like to hear the sound of a car as well, and I just can't get used to the fact of seeing and not hearing cars going around.
The thing is, you can't get used to it at the moment, Martin. I think you'll find that, as with a lot of...
Oh, don't get me wrong,
you'll get used to it.
If I were born in an age where that's all it was,
and
the only thing I knew about cars with engines were on the internet or in books and stuff and pictures, so the case may be, but I come from an era where at one time there was no such thing about electric cars. And if you mention anything like that, it were bubble cars and things floating about in space. There was nothing.
And like I say, in the 80s, they thought we'd be flying around in jetpacks by the year 2000.
Yeah, and we're sort of crossing over technology now, and I still think it'd be a shame though to see the death of the car as a whole like that.
It really would, but I think at some point in the probably next 20 years or so, certainly from a new car point of view anyway.
You see, we might be saying all this, and then there'll probably come a time where it is just all hybrids and electric cars. But then people that's been brought into that, they'll be saying, well, there'll come a time when all these will be just flying. And then that will happen. And it'll be a bit like Fifth Element with Bruce Willis, where he comes out of his garage in his cab and he's confronted by a swarm of cars, and every single one's just flying and they're going everywhere. And that's what it'll be eventually. Because rather than be messing on the roads, they'll take to the sky.
Technology just moves so fast. I think really, ultimately, what needs to happen, obviously, because cars are going to either go full electric or hybrid, We need certainly in the UK at least, and I can only speak for this country, but we need a much better infrastructure
Yeah.
for charging.
Oh, we do a lot of things to
We're really behind
before we
the
can
movement for
ever
that.
get to a good stage.
And also, we're going this way a bit already, but cars need to be much cheaper. Electric cars.
The thing is, there needs to be ease of access for charging points as well.
You see, I think until all these other things are put in place and working right, I don't think the prices of the cars will change much.
No.
Once everything sort of, it's that kick-starting point, let's say, where everything's bang on right, I think all the companies are going to be forced then to do the cars at the reasonable prices to make them sell and that.
At the moment,
At
the moment, even for a hybrid car, you're still looking usually about £3,000 or £4,000 more than a conventional one.
yeah, and that shouldn't be the
It
case.
shouldn't.
But it says everything with new technologies, you know, with big flat screen tellies. When they first came out, for someone to have a 55-inch flat screen telly, we're into thousands.
Thousands, yeah.
Now you can go anywhere, these TV direct places and all that, and pick them up for a couple of hundred.
Yeah.
And that
Picture
just,
quality isn't always good, but
no, but you can. That's the thing, and you can get the same size telly as your posh neighbour once had, that paid thousands for, with all this surround sound and stuff. And you can get it at half the price.
Yeah.
or less.
Yeah, and this is how times have changed. And then the latest technology will come out, which costs the earth again, and so on.
But that's the same with anything, isn't it?
Yeah.
When something's new, it's expensive.
But the other thing that they're going to need, though, is a proper battery replacement service that doesn't cost the earth.
Yeah.
Because at the minute, if something goes wrong with a electric or a hybrid battery, you've got to take it back to the dealer. It's an expensive thing to actually get, and thankfully they dispose of it. But there's a hell of a lot of stuff in there that you can't just shove into landfill. So all you do is basically taking away one problem and introducing a mass more. The cars can't be recycled in the same way anymore.
No, everything will have to change.
And that's the thing that I don't think many people take into consideration.
But also, can you manage taking an electric car or whatever to these small independent garages to be fixed and things like that?
You will.
It's going to be a whole different setup of how even a mechanic works.
And that's the thing as well, when an electric car comes to the end of its life.
Well, I once
What
touched on
would
this
you
a
do about
long time ago when me and Mark did a discussion about electric vehicles. How do you dispose of it?
Yeah.
Not in the same way you do your regular cars and bits and bobs.
You can't just take it. You can't just sell it at local scrappers for a couple of.
You can't have a scrapyard full of hybrids and electric cars and all that because of the components they've got.
Batteries, electric components, all of them dangerous.
The other thing as well is there's certain places where cars like that are restricted. You cannot drive a hybrid car without thinking through the Channel Tunnel.
No, you can't.
You see, I didn't even know that.
And
Well, you wouldn't be able to drive through the Channel Tunnel anyway, but
yes,
yeah.
but you can't travel through the Channel
Well,
Tunnel.
these are laws that have to change, and if it becomes a
You
big
can't
thing.
change the laws because if something happened in the Channel Tunnel, then that car could be a potential killer
Well, yeah,
in terms of the technology.
And we've seen this in planes as well with lithium-ion batteries, haven't
Yeah.
we? So,
The Note 7, for example. Imagine the Note 7 going off in your pocket. That's going to be bad enough. Imagine that going something that's basically the size of your floor in the car going off.
Yeah, I mean, it's just like it's like a suicide attempt bomb, isn't it?
yeah.
It's like a terrorist.
So there's a lot of things to consider.
One guy in America was trying to sue Tesla because his car caught fire, and as it turned out, it had been shot through the passenger side floor
With a gun?
with a gun. And so the batteries that were damaged, the battery cells that were damaged in there went into thermal runaway
Yeah.
because of all the problems that they
Oh, well, you see that's an accident then because of
Well, no, it was
fooling
being
around,
stupid.
isn't it? Yeah,
But he
fooling
was trying
around.
to sue Tesla because it was a problem, because
Yeah.
it was a fault with
But
the
he
car.
was trying to make out that it was Tesla's problem,
Yeah,
yeah.
it wasn't Tesla's problem, it was his problem for being a div.
But no, it's an interesting one. I think there's a lot of still unsolved unanswered questions in terms of what we're going to do about places where you can't take them, what we're going to do when we dispose of when they come to the end of their life. It's not like sent to a scrapyard like Malcolm
What
says.
happens with, if you have an accident where the car actually catches fire?
This is it when you hear about accidents at motorways, so many cars have collided and all that. And
But the thing is that those lanes are open after a couple of hours.
Yeah.
Remember the car that Hammond crashed in? That had 8,000 cells in there, and it was spontaneously combusting 3 days after the accident. They couldn't actually shift it.
so your fire service and things like that would have to have a whole new training on how to just deal with things
Well, you
like
can't
that.
use foam, you can't use water, anything like that.
No.
So they'd have to have fire engines specifically set aside with dry powder,
Yeah.
just in case.
And they'd have to have a training procedure how to deal with it, because they couldn't just turn up and use their own practice like they do with normal vehicles.
No.
Huge
So
amounts
many
of
things. When you start digging deep, all the ins and
Yeah,
outs,
yeah.
all it is.
But then you look at the accident that Hammond had. Okay, it was quite extreme, but there are examples, and quite a few examples now. You can search YouTube and find them all over the place, of crashed electric vehicles where the thing will be engulfed in flames,
Yeah.
and it doesn't take long. It only requires one cell. Bear in mind, a cell is effectively a little bit bigger than an AA battery.
Yeah.
It only requires one of those to be punctured or crushed,
Well, this is the thing when
and
they,
you've got a dangerous situation.
when they say, I mean, you know, they say it all the time, and it's said it for donkey's years about even your standard batteries. Do not throw into a fire.
Yeah.
Look how potentially explosive they are. You chuck a battery into a fire, and that's just something that you put in a remote for your TV. It's always said it. So you can imagine cells in a car going.
Yeah.
But yes, a huge amount of unanswered questions, and I think it's going to be very interesting. to
I
see
think
the
at the
next
moment
10
it
years or so.
raises too many questions than what it's trying to, let's say, cure answers.
And we're certainly not qualified for the answers.
I think hopefully in my time I'll just stick to cars with engines and hope it never comes, let's say, too quick. But the way things change so rapidly these days, I think in my driving career I might be forced to actually have a car which definitely either hybrid or electric or
Yeah,
whatever.
that really depends on how fast things develop.
Yeah.
But we have seen it with other technologies, how things have rapidly changed. You look back and you think, I can't believe that's gone from that to that in X amount of years. But it does.
It does happen.
And it probably will.
But I think that's probably it for the discussion. If you guys have any things you want to throw at the discussion, any ideas, any suggestions that you think might happen in the next few years, and we'd love to hear them, love to hear your thoughts.
But I won't say that was a bit of an electrifying discussion. And anyway, I've got to put my phone on charge. So
Well, I think it was very positive. Yeah.
well, yeah, but I've got to put my phone on charge anyway. I forget. But
But that's it for the discussion anyway.
Yeah, it was.
So let us know your thoughts, and we'll see you next time.
if there's anyone out there as well, before we go, that hasn't got a hybrid or anything like that, get in touch.
I do know someone with an electric vehicle who lives up in Glasgow.
All right. Well, make sure he's charged it plenty before he tries to make it down here.
Road trip.
See you next time.
Bye.